Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here. I just read Images of Shadowhawk, and I was never an Image kid. I'm not even that much of a 90s style guy. I loved Eric Larson when I was a little kid because I thought it was a good fit for this, the creepy aspect of Spider-Man. And kind of while reading Images of Shadowhawk, something kind of clicked in place for me. And it's that the sort of 90s Image style, or if there is a single style for it, I don't know anything about Image really because I didn't read them that much. It has a lot of overlap with the Mannerists, and the Mannerists were really interesting because they were rebelling against the sort of classical high Renaissance artists. So if Da Vinci was interested in painting beautiful, subtle effects of light, and Michelangelo was interested in a robust, masculine, muscly human figure, even as women looked like robust men, the Mannerists were interested in stretching and distorting and twisting the human body as much as they could. And they were just insane with color. Like it'd be Jesus coming down from the cross and he'd be bright green or he'd be purple gray because that was their way of saying he's dead. How can you tell? He's green. So I've never personally liked looking at Mannerist art too much because I think they went a little too far in their nuttiness. But there's still an interesting sort of, I don't know, like footnote in art history based on the fact that they were a bunch of, you think of classical realist artists as all being like, polite and realist, but you would find like, weird young bucks who wanted to rebel against the old generation back in the 1500s and the 1600s as well as today. And so that's what the Image style is. It's all these young buck artists. They, even in like the editorial comments, they're always kind of playing up how radical and edgy and confused they are. We're, hey guys, we hope you liked it. It's still $1.90, right? Their tone of speaking to the reader is part of their shtick. So if Stanley had the shtick of kind of being a fun, slightly dorky but also really cool, like comic storyteller guy, then their shtick was kind of to be like 90s and out there and to pump up the violence. So this was a really interesting relation of roles. I've never seen it done quite like this. Keith Griffin's writer and artist. Alan Grant is dialogue. Jim Valentino is the creator of the character and editor. So I like Frank Miller's style. I okay-ish like Todd McFarlane's style. I think he definitely is the one who kind of generated this new style in the 90s. But what I think that Keith Griffin, and especially the colorist here, needed was a little bit more composition to hold everything together. So what I perceive the style as being is saying, what if we move past the classic comic book style? What if we move past the how to draw comics the Marvel way action style? And we just push all of the lines and shapes and panels in any which direction we feel like, almost just kind of like at the spur of the moment, we'll come up with our panel compositions and put some ornate little doodads around the panels, which is fun because you can tell they're just going in whatever direction they want to go, but it's really hard to read, and I just need some freaking black to help me hold things together and understand it. And they're actually like whole chunks where you can tell they wanted to have like Shadowhawk disappearing into the background, but he's not disappearing in the background. He's just like gray-green, and he's not hidden in shadow. So one of my art teachers, a professional painter, really cool guy, I've quoted the Bill Watterson quote over and over again that the eye being lazy is attracted to white. And something my painting teacher taught me is that black is the unifying aspect of most compositions because if it's the darkest thing and you read it as the darkest thing, you're sort of naturally interested in what's the brightest thing, what's the darkest thing I can find. I guess that little elbow joint because they're not using significant black space in this. And by using black, especially in line drawing, because when you think about it, the lines are black, right? And then if you have a big black shape, that means that the lines of the character are related to the big black shape. And if they're related to one another, then you start saying, okay, if they go together, you can breathe. Everything feels like it goes together. With this, the lines are everywhere and there's no big black shape for me to relate it to. That's basically the principle my art teacher taught me. And I can kind of see it in this, where I can't rest anywhere. I can't relax. But This was a fun book, like lots of, fun, crazy, like, hey, let's have a fence, and the fence is super zoomed in, and let's have a giant sound effect, and let's have bad guys with giant pouches everywhere, and leather jackets with sunglasses, smoking cigarettes. That's the appeal of these comics. When I was a little kid, I would draw big guys with giant jaws, smoking cigarettes with big leather jackets, because that's cool. But kind of, I respect this. I think it's an important part of the history of comics. I just personally don't enjoy it because I think it needs something to unify it, something to kind of like bring it down to earth and give me something to look at. There's a great, I gotta find it, there's this great video by a Japanese artist talking about character design, and he draws like a fancy schmancy shoujo character, and he says, you've seen a million characters like this with like a million little hair strands, and he draws like a hat. And he draws one of the characters he used to draw, and he says, this is a character because I give you one thing to look at. I don't really have one thing to look at with the character apart from like the overall impact. He's big and he's covered in jackets. Oh, hi you. What are you gonna do? He's been quiet. You have been a good boy, actually. You haven't been meowing at 3 a.m. You've been doing great. You just still want to like walk on the comic while I'm reviewing it. Here's just a little example of the panel things I was talking about with just a little ornate gesture. So Silverhawk, he runs up against this guy. He gets beat in a fight. There's some mob bosses talking about whether he's going to turn traitor on the mob, more crazy panels. It was fun. I actually started, even though I don't personally like the style, I think this is a good job of at least kind of like getting me into the swing of things with just how bold it is in accepting this is the style we're going in, this is the direction we're going in. We're gonna sort of abandon the what would it be? The conventions of the older style. Now look at this. Next time, from for tree and good job. Who is the editor? Good job, Jim Valentino, all the way back in 1993. 2019 says hello. So yeah, it was just an okayish little adventure. I'm not invested in these characters. I'm not personally a fan of this art style unless it's like Frank Miller kind of bringing compositional unity to everything with his great black and whites. But because it's solid, they still get me into it, and I still enjoy myself thoroughly. The comment section, they talk up their artist and their writer team. They talk about their history and, like with Alan is the co-creator of Judge Dredd, and he's written for Lobo. Keith, he's such a degenerate, lol, ha ha ha, that's their style. They're just making fun of everything. Promising, hey guys, we hope we'll get some good artists lined up for you, but boy, those artists can sure be flaky. Chuck E. Cheese in his helmet and his elbow and knee pads, radical, man. And 10 reasons why we're such degenerates. They knew exactly what they were, and they built a brand, and I kind of respect that. I don't know anything about Shadowhawk. Why is this Shadowhawk 3 if this is his first series? I don't know. But I really love this. What this showcases is the love that Image would have for the artist. Look at this. He loves the artist too. He gets it. Jerry Ordey, acclaimed writer and artist. Jerry was a mainstay at DC on Superman and Captain Marvel before bringing Wildstar to Image. Dope. Sam Keith, but it's a completely different style with painterly brush effects. Fan fave Sam gained notoriety as the first Sandman artist, inker of Mage, and cover artist for Wolverine. Now his amazing works graces Image's The Max. I've heard of The Max, even though I've never gotten into it. And now kind of like a campy 60s style. You saw his Shadowhawk spoof, Traction Shock, in Splitting Image. Now get ready as 63's own Dandy Don teams his most famous creation, Megaton Man, with Valentino's Normal Man, soon. Trender number 0, fat chance of that ever happening, but we're up to issue 5, and still only $195. Check us out. You broke my heart, Eric Larson Senpai. You broke my heart. And they just had so much fun. Check out the ad. It's so 90s. All the characters are so radical. They have hair everywhere. Blah, blah, blah. We're so... that I don't get it. But, well, I do get it. This is, I think Scott McCloud said it best. The 90s style was kind of about pumping up emotion to the max. And even though... there's an important point to this. So kind of in recent years, it's become hip to go back and mock the 90s style and just like trash these people and say, man, aren't you glad that we're not corny like that anymore? And even though I personally don't like it, I do respect what this was in kind of, I see the history of comics as a repeat of the history of art, where every generation comes in and they want to do something different than the people that came before them. So my thesis was the 90s artists are the Mannerists. Sometimes that meant it was ugly and they were like stretching the style to past the breaking point of what was beautiful. But it also was interesting in that they were willing to do away with any convention while still kind of retaining maybe like the energy and the fantasy aspects of the earlier generation. So, fun comic. I will probably donate it. He's Hulk, but he's got sharp teeth. That's it. It's endearing. It's still endearing. That's it. Number one Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Do it for this guy. Look at him. He didn't meow at us once. Show everyone your butt cuddles. Family-friendly YouTube content. Catch you later, everyone.